Ghana's current energy shortfall is seriously affecting businesses, and the manufacturing sector is crumbling under the weight of not being able to get enough power to stay in business.
A negative -8%. So what we are saying is that manufacturing's contribution to the GDP was -8%.
The latest Afro barometer by the Association of Ghana Industries says that availability of power emerged as the biggest challenge to businesses, which put the growth rate of the country's manufacturing sector at a shameful -8%. The AGI, as a result, is calling for short-term, time-based action plan to reduce the energy deficit in order to resolve the current energy crisis. This is part of an 8-point communique from the AGI. Tonight, we're asking, are these businesses losing their ability to stay afloat because they are not investing in alternative power sources? Or perhaps is the national power crisis too much for them to break even? We'll find out. This is today's big story. Today's big story is brought to you by Lifeline Properties, quality, affordable and comfortable housing. Ghanaian industries, the leaders of these industries are saying they're feeling the pinch of the power crisis. Manufacturing has dropped so low that it has gone into the negative, perhaps because of overarching debts associated with not producing at their optimum. Among the many challenges industries face, the power crisis emerged as the highest.
Now, in this regard, the National Council of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, resolves as follows. 1. AGI is calling for a short-term, time-bound or time-based action plan to reduce the energy deficit in order to resolve the current energy crisis in the country. 2. The association reminds government of its promise to bring on board emergency power barges to increase the generation capacity by the end of the first quarter of 2015. 3. As a matter of urgency, the Ministry of Energy and the Energy Commission should make available the Strategic National Energy Plan, that is 2015 to 2030, and also the 5-year Energy Sector Strategic Development Plan covering 2015 to 2020 should be released alongside for purposes of effective implementation and monitoring. AGI calls for complete institutional reforms of the operations and management of entities responsible for the entire power sector. Government, as a matter of urgency, should ensure full operation of the Tema Oil Refinery, considering its significant contribution to value addition in the manufacturing sector. In addition, TOR's operation will ensure availability of residual fuel oil for steam boilers of industry at competitive cost. It is really a key thing that we should see to the operation, or making sure that TOR comes back, in operation, so that it will support, these areas which are very vital in industry's operation. Point number 6, manufacturing recorded the worst growth rate in recent memory of -8% in 2014, as I have said earlier on. The manufacturing sector continues to shrink, and Ghana risks losing its industrial base if government policies do not quickly address these challenges to revive the industrial sector.
That's the president of the Association of Ghana Industries, James Santi, speaking to us there. James Asare, I beg your pardon, speaking to journalists there at an event at which they issued a communique, among which they stated 8 points of resolutions that the AGI is putting out to ensure that the power crisis facing this country is resolved. Let's get onto the telephone line now quickly and speak to the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, George Kweku Ofori, who is joining us on the telephone line now. Good evening, sir, and thanks for your time.
Good evening, my brother. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. Now, I know that industries are not fine. Small businesses are not fine. You're all feeling the pinch of the power crisis, and the Association of Ghana Industry conducted its Afro Barometer for the year 2014, and they suggest that in the first quarter, availability of energy, availability of power was the biggest challenge to businesses. Is this also biggest challenge to you, small-scale enterprises?
Thank you very much, and good evening to our listeners. I believe strongly, and I share the sentiments of the Association of Ghana Industry. Because if you want to build a viable country, the foundation depends seriously on agri and industrialization or manufacturing.
That's
but
right.
If we are not having these, automatically the indicators will show clearly that the country is not moving the way it should move. Now, let me come to the SMEs, or the informal sector, of which Guta is part of it.
That's right.
What I want to say is that, trading is a graduation process. Somebody starts as a hawker, a petty trader, owns a shop, and then by being able to develop the market of the particular item that he or she deals with, will be able to, partner somebody and be able to start producing. And as soon as they start producing, they have already developed the market for that particular item. So sales and others or marketing wouldn't be a problem to that particular goods that they produce. And so trading is a graduation process which transcends to manufacturing firms to the extent of even after manufacturing, you export to the West African sub-region. So it's a chain and a graduation process through that. So with the issue of the energy crisis that we are confronted with in the country, let me tell you that production is not ended until it gets to the final consumer. So the production chain is also there to the extent that if there's a production or manufacturing of a factory, you automatically have to have warehousing, wholesaling, and then retailing. Of course, we are doing retailing at the informal sector. So before the goods get to the final consumer, we are the contact point. So once the energy crisis has affected the manufacturing firms, automatically it trickles down to our operations also. Because if we are not producing, how can we also get those goods to be able to market them for the manufacturing firms? So it's a bigger problem that we are confronted with as a country.
George, I know that you're just telling me that you agree with the position of the AGI, but what I actually wanted to find out from you is whether your members, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, have perhaps complained to you in real terms what kinds of challenges they are facing with the power shortage crisis.
My brother, the issue has to do, you see, generally, you cannot leave a certain sector of the economy because energy is like fuel. As soon as fuel prices goes up, it affects everything on the market. So equally, energy situation also affects every Tom, Dick, and Harry. So we have had series of reports because people are just buying fuel into their generators and using them in their shops, in their houses, and wherever you go, you'll find the sound of generation plants working all over during the day and even the night. So this is the issue that we are confronted because, you see, it is making our returns in terms of our profit also being difficult because as soon as it's happening in that way, businesses have said that you need to operate business and expand and be able to employ, create jobs. And so if these things are not there, it affects you, the individual. It affects the nation as a whole. But my brother, the difficulty that we're having with the policymakers now is that when we had a windfall in terms of the crude oil after which we had a windfall, we were thinking that at least government will actually intervene by allowing the automatic adjustment formula to find its own level, so that the prices will also find its own level, so that at least alternative use of diesel could be used to power their generating plant, so that factories will be able to work, generate employment. When the employment is generated, the same employees are going to pay, pay as you earn or pay to the Internal Revenue Service, and then to the Senate, that is Social Security and National Insurance
Trust.
So in this case, the windfall, as it were, will be a spread where every Ghanaian will benefit out of that spread. But now it looks as if the way things are going, we are not seeing the spread. And that is seriously because it could be used as an alternative source of energy. Now that we are having the crisis, that one could also could have been used as an alternative source of energy, so that at least people will not cry so much as it is. Because now, whether authorities like it or not, we are confronted with a serious crisis in terms of the energy.
Right.
We must accept it in principle and see how best we can go around it. Because you see, if you are asking from the Minister of Power, if you are asking Ghanaians to be patient and be waiting for about a year.
So you feel that government's inaction in this is not helping your members at all. And now there's one thing I want to ask you. I do know that many of you small businesses, traders, hawkers and the like resort to generator power each time they have lights off in their shops or whatever it is. Now I want to find out if you feel as a union that traders cannot perhaps put themselves together to find reliable alternative power rather than falling back on the grid to stay in business.
Thank you very much, my brother. You see, energy situations, and let me say that infrastructure development is a very cost-effective issue that confronts everybody. That is why even the private sector cannot, come out and say that, we're going to organize ourselves. Because it is capital intensive. That is why infrastructure development like energy, water, roads, and what have you are built by government through the taxpayers' money, because it's very capital intensive that an individual or a group of persons cannot even mobilize funds to say we are going into energy. Look at the kind of capital that is required. We heard as the early, they signed a contract of $7 billion, which Ghanaian or private sector organization has such huge amount of money. So automatically, it is the government must be able to do this through the taxpayers' money, because an individual cannot be able to, do this capital-intensive project.
Right, Mr. George Ofori, we'll have you hold briefly. We're trying to get onto the telephone line to bring the AGI President, James Asare, Jay, who earlier spoke to us at the commissioning of the AGI's Afro Barometer for 2014. Let's go back to some of the things that he spoke to us about at the commissioning of that Afro Barometer report, and then we'll make an attempt to get onto the telephone line and speak to him. Do stay.
AGI recognizes that the challenges facing industry regarding power are deeply rooted in inadequate generation, coupled with inefficient practices of institutions responsible for providing electricity in the country, among others. The latest AGI Business Barometer Survey report reaffirms the worsening energy situation, with availability of power emerging as the biggest challenge to businesses. So it's clear that even though we've seen that business confidence is really going up or has gone up appreciably, but availability of power has become a very critical issue which is facing industry in the country. AGI expects that the new ministry will focus on addressing the critical challenges facing the power sector, especially consistent supply of electricity to industry.
That's the AGI president there earlier at the commissioning of the AGI Afro Barometer for 2014. Now, according to some of the research data that came forward, the business confidence picked up in the fourth quarter of 2014. But according to the report, the challenges that saddled the economy from the quarter one impacted negatively on business confidence all the way through to the third quarter, when signs of recovery became evident. I'm sure that many of you will recall that when the city started gaining stability, a lot of confidence was restored into businesses and they were able to still stay afloat. But the AGI report suggested as the energy shortfall continued, it affected negatively all production activities in this country, making the growth rate of manufacturing slump as low as -8%. We still have the association, we still have the Ghana Union of Traders Association President George Kwekofori on the line. We're working the telephone lines to get to James Asare J, AGI President, who agreed to speak to us earlier. We do hope that we get him before our time runs out. So, Mr. George Ofori, I've seen the reports, which I know that this is not a report that was conducted by Guta, but the AGI says that business confidence, stabilized around the fourth quarter. But the challenges that businesses face from first quarter of 2014 to the third quarter all impacted negatively on productivity, taking manufacturing growth rate to -8%. So would you say the same for some of your members, that as traders and small-scale businesses, SMEs, when the city started making some gains, you started recovering briefly and then it went back to being bad?
Well, let me say that we have already said, and we will also repeat it, that, the operations of our activities, it's not like, it has a timetable to the extent that when we talk about the import cycle, it takes about 6 months before one could be able to order the goods and then have it shipped, then have it cleared at the port. It takes sometimes about 6 good months. So we had, a serious shock when the city started, behaving the way it started during January, February up to October. We hadn't had our peace of mind in terms of our business operations until the energy crisis also, joined the fray. And I think my brother Asare was talking about business confidence. I also share the same sentiment because, you see, we are doing this as a country, or we are preparing ourselves as a country to be able to attract investment into our country. But in doing so, and mind you, see, Ghana is not an island. It's not an isolated country, and Ghana as well happens to be part of the global market. And so the other countries are not waiting for us so that they will ask us to come and join them before we start the 100-meter or the 800-meter hurdle. They are also going ahead. So what are we doing if we are having a situation in terms of our energy crisis like this and we are not finding solutions to this? Virtually, we are actually losing a lot of investors out of our shores. And those who are also coming are also thinking that, do I have to go and then be in this kind of situation that the country is behaving? Because sometimes the investors even knows much about your country than you yourself living in the country. So my fear is about the investor confidence that we have been able to build so far. And with this energy crisis, my brother, it's going to be very difficult for Ghana to attract investment.
George Kweku Ofori, we're grateful for your time on today's Big Story. That's where we'll bring our discussion to a close with George Kweku Ofori, who is the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association. We're still working the telephone lines to get James Asare J, who is president of the Association of Ghana Industry, to walk us through some of the research findings that are captured in the Afro Barometer report that was released today. We'll take a break and we'll be right back. Do stay. To today's Big Story, which is brought to you in association with Lifeline Properties, affordable quality and comfortable housing. If you've just joined us, we were discussing the Afro Barometer by the Association of Ghana Industry, which puts the availability of energy as the greatest challenge businesses face in 2014. Now, as part of the AGI's resolution, it came out with an 8-point communique in which it wants government to put in place a short-term, time-based action plan to reduce the energy deficit, and then government also reminded to bring on board emergency power barges as it promised. And also, as a matter of energy urgency, the Ministry of Energy and the Energy Commission should also make available the Strategic National Energy Plan 2015-2030, the 5-year sector energy sector strategic development plan, according to the AGI, which covers the period 2015 to 2050, should be released alongside the purposes of effective implementation and monitoring. There are 8 points which we wanted to put across to the AGI, but unfortunately, its President, James Asare, who agreed to speak to us, is not able to get onto the phone line for that discussion. So we might have to just bring down the discussion. We'll continue another time when we get hold of him. And my name is Stephen Enti. Thanks for staying with us on today's Big Story. The interactive segment is right following. Do stay.